The rain arrived long before the moon climbed high above the forest. It did not rush or roar. Instead, it came softly, one gentle drop at a time, as if the sky itself wished to whisper a quiet goodnight to every tree, every flower, and every tiny creature resting beneath the peaceful canopy. Hidden among tall pine trees stood a small wooden cabin. Its warm golden windows glowed like tiny stars against the cool blue night. The cabin had been standing there for many years, surrounded by nature, protected by ancient trees whose branches swayed gently with every passing breeze. Outside, the wooden porch was covered with fresh raindrops. Water slowly trickled down the edges of the roof, creating a peaceful rhythm that blended perfectly with the steady rainfall. Every drop found its own quiet path before joining the little puddles below, where soft ripples expanded slowly across the surface. A cool breeze wandered through the forest, carrying the fresh scent of pine needles, damp earth, and clean mountain air. The leaves whispered quietly to one another, moving just enough to create a gentle rustling sound that felt comforting rather than loud. Inside the cabin, everything was warm. A small fireplace burned gently, its orange flames dancing slowly over carefully stacked logs. Every now and then, the wood released a soft crackle before settling back into peaceful silence. The warm glow reached every corner of the little room, filling it with comfort. A cozy chair rested beside the fireplace. A knitted blanket lay folded neatly across its back. A small wooden table held a steaming mug of herbal tea. Thin curls of steam floated upward before disappearing into the warm air. There was no hurry here, no clocks, no busy streets, no ringing phones, only calm, only quiet, only the peaceful sound of rain. Outside the large window, tiny raindrops gently tapped against the glass. Each drop lingered for just a moment before slowly sliding downward, joining another drop along the way. Together, they traced delicate paths across the window, like tiny rivers flowing toward the earth. Far above the trees, soft clouds drifted slowly across the night sky. Every so often, the moon quietly appeared between them, painting silver light across the forest before hiding once more behind another passing cloud. The forest itself seemed ready for sleep. The tall pine trees stood like silent guardians. Wildflowers rested beneath their leaves. Small ferns gently collected sparkling drops of rain. Even the moss-covering old stones looked softer beneath the gentle light. In the distance, a quiet owl called only once before returning to silence. Nothing disturbed the peaceful night. The rain continued at its own gentle pace, steady, calm, comforting. As the minutes passed, the sounds of the forest slowly blended together into a single peaceful melody. Rain falling, leaves moving, wind breathing, fire crackling. Each sound found its place naturally, never asking for attention, never becoming too loud. The little cabin seemed to breathe together with the forest itself. Warm inside, cool outside, safe, peaceful, comfortable. If someone were sitting beside the window now, wrapped inside the soft blanket with the warmth of the fire nearby, they would notice how easily their breathing matched the gentle rhythm of the falling rain. A slow breath in, a slow breath out. Nothing else mattered tonight. There were no plans waiting for tomorrow, no unfinished work, no worries to carry. The forest asked for nothing. The rain expected nothing. The quiet night simply welcomed every tired heart into its peaceful embrace. And as another gentle wave of rain drifted across the roof of the little cabin, the entire forest settled even deeper into the calm, beautiful silence of the night. The night grew a little deeper, though it was impossible to notice exactly when it happened. Time moved differently inside the forest. It no longer followed clocks or calendars. Instead, it followed the quiet rhythm of the rain, the gentle sway of the trees, and the soft glow of the fire that continued to warm the little cabin. Outside, the rain remained steady and kind. It never hurried. Each drop found its place upon the wooden roof before rolling slowly toward the edge, where it slipped into the darkness below with the gentlest little splash. The sound became familiar, comforting, almost like a quiet heartbeat that surrounded the cabin from every direction. A cool breeze wandered softly through the tall pine trees. Their branches bowed ever so slightly, then returned to stillness as though the forest itself were breathing slowly in its sleep. The mist had grown a little thicker now. It floated gently between the tree trunks, wrapping every stone, fern, and fallen log in a soft silver blanket. Nothing looked sharp or hurried anymore. Every corner of the forest seemed softened by the peaceful night. Inside the cabin, the fire continued its quiet dance. Small golden flames rose and fell without effort, casting warm light across the wooden floor. Gentle shadows stretched along the walls, moving so slowly they were almost impossible to notice. The warmth inside felt perfectly balanced with the cool rain outside. Neither too warm nor too cool, simply comfortable. The little mug of herbal tea still rested upon the wooden table. Its steam rose slowly into the quiet room before disappearing into the gentle warmth. Nearby, the blanket rested peacefully upon the chair, inviting nothing more than rest. Beyond the window, tiny streams of rainwater slowly crossed the glass. Some drops joined together, others wandered alone. Every path was different, yet every journey was peaceful. Above the forest, thick clouds drifted quietly across the night sky. Occasionally, the moon appeared between them for just a few peaceful moments. Its silver light rested softly upon the tops of the pine trees, making every raindrop sparkle before the clouds gently covered the light once again. The forest welcomed both darkness and moonlight equally. Neither one interrupted the peace. Far away, a small creek flowed gently over smooth stones. Its quiet water blended naturally with the steady rain, creating another soft layer within the night's peaceful melody. Nothing competed. Everything belonged. Rain, wind, water, fire, silence. Together, they created a calm that seemed endless. The cabin listened quietly. The trees listened quietly. Even the earth beneath the forest floor seemed to rest without movement. As the hours passed, every breath became slower. The shoulders relaxed. The thoughts became lighter. One by one, the worries of the day drifted away like tiny clouds, disappearing into the night sky. There was nowhere else to be, nothing left to finish, nothing waiting to interrupt this peaceful evening. Only this moment, only the gentle rain, only the warm glow inside the cabin. The fireplace released another soft crackle before settling back into silence. A glowing ember slowly shifted among the logs, shining gently like a tiny sunset hidden inside the fire. Outside, a single pine cone dropped quietly onto the soft forest floor. Its sound was so gentle that the rain almost carried it away before anyone could notice. Somewhere nearby, leaves gathered tiny pearls of rain upon their edges. Every so often, one crystal-clear drop became just heavy enough to fall. It landed softly upon the moss below. Then silence returned once more. The forest never rushed. The rain never hurried. Everything happened exactly when it was meant to. As another gentle breeze passed through the pines, the comforting rhythm of rain continued without end, wrapping the quiet cabin in a peaceful embrace, inviting every tired mind to grow calmer, calmer, and slowly drift toward deep, restful sleep. Beyond the quiet cabin, the forest stretched peacefully in every direction, disappearing into the soft blue darkness of the night. Every tree stood patiently beneath the gentle rain, its branches glistening with countless tiny droplets that reflected the faint moonlight whenever the clouds slowly drifted apart. The rain had become a familiar companion. It no longer sounded like separate drops falling from the sky. Instead, It had become one continuous, soothing blanket of sound, wrapping the entire forest in comfort. The roof of the cabin welcomed every raindrop with a soft, wooden rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Each gentle note blended naturally into the next, creating a peaceful melody that never repeated in exactly the same way, yet always felt beautifully familiar. The wind wandered quietly between the pine trees. It carried the fresh scent of rain-soaked wood, cool mountain air, and the rich fragrance of damp earth resting peacefully beneath layers of soft green moss. Every breath of the forest felt clean, calm, refreshing. Near the edge of the clearing, small wildflowers rested beneath broad leaves that sheltered them from the rain. Tiny droplets gathered along the edges before slipping quietly to the ground, disappearing into the dark soil without a sound. Nothing in the forest resisted the rain. Everything welcomed it. The ancient trees drank deeply. The earth accepted every drop with gratitude. The little creek nearby grew only slightly wider, continuing its slow and peaceful journey through smooth stones polished by countless seasons. Inside the cabin, the fire remained gentle. Golden light rested warmly across the wooden walls, revealing the beautiful grain of the timber that had aged gracefully over many years. The room felt timeless. There were no bright screens, no alarms, no hurried conversations, only warmth, only stillness, only peace. The chair beside the fireplace remained quietly waiting beneath the folded blanket. It seemed as though it had been waiting for years, always ready to offer comfort without asking for anything in return. Outside the window, the glass shimmered beneath hundreds of tiny streams of rainwater. Some drops paused for just a moment before continuing downward. Others merged together, becoming larger before gently slipping toward the bottom of the window. The movement was slow, almost hypnotic, easy to watch, easy to forget the passing of time. Far above, the clouds slowly opened once again. For a few peaceful moments, the moon smiled softly over the sleeping forest. Silver light spread gently across the tops of the pine trees. Every wet branch sparkled quietly. Every puddle reflected the sky like polished glass. Then, just as gently, another cloud drifted across the moon, returning the forest to its soft blue darkness. The transition was so smooth that nothing felt interrupted. Everything remained calm. Somewhere in the distance, the breeze moved through a field of tall grass. Its quiet whisper joined the rain, creating another peaceful layer within the endless nighttime symphony. The sounds never competed with one another. They simply existed together. Rain, wind, fire, flowing water, gentle silence. Each sound arrived softly. Each sound faded softly. Each sound invited the mind to slow down just a little more. Inside the cabin, the fire settled into glowing embers. They shined with a warm orange glow, breathing gently beneath the stacked logs. Occasionally, a tiny spark rose for a brief moment before disappearing into the warm air. Nothing startled the night. Nothing demanded attention. The forest had become a place where every breath felt lighter than the last, where every passing minute carried away another small piece of yesterday's worries. The rain continued faithfully, steady, gentle, patient, as if it had all the time in the world. And perhaps, tonight, it truly did. The peaceful cabin remained wrapped in warmth, while outside the quiet forest rested beneath its blanket of gentle rain, inviting every listening heart to slow its breathing, relax completely, and drift ever deeper into the calm embrace of the endless night. The forest welcomed another quiet hour without anyone noticing. Nothing announced the passing of time. There were no bells, no distant traffic, no hurried footsteps, only the endless rhythm of gentle rain, falling with the same peaceful patience it had shown since the beginning of the night. The cabin rested comfortably beneath the shelter of the towering pine trees, Its wooden walls carried the warmth of the fire inside, while the rain cooled the roof above. Together, warmth and coolness created a perfect balance, making the little cabin feel like the safest place in the world. A single lantern glowed softly near the window. Its warm amber light blended beautifully with the gentle flicker of the fireplace, filling the room with a peaceful golden glow. The light never flickered too brightly. It simply breathed, slowly, quietly, comfortably. Outside, the rain continued to wash over every leaf and branch. Tiny streams of water slipped along the rough bark of the ancient pines before disappearing into the soft forest floor. The earth welcomed every drop without a sound. The scent of fresh rain became richer now. Cool pine needles, warm cedar wood, damp moss, fresh mountain air. Together, they created a fragrance that felt clean, comforting, and timeless. Far beyond the cabin, a quiet meadow rested beneath the night sky. Wild grasses swayed gently with the breeze, each blade holding tiny diamonds of rain that shimmered whenever the moon peeked through the clouds. The moon seemed unhurried tonight. It appeared for only a few peaceful moments before hiding once again behind soft, drifting clouds. The darkness it left behind never felt lonely. Instead, it felt gentle, protective, like a warm blanket wrapped around the entire forest. Inside the cabin, the fireplace glowed steadily. The bright flames had softened into glowing embers, radiating a quiet warmth that filled every corner of the room. The wooden floor reflected the golden light with a soft, comforting glow. Nothing moved quickly. Even the shadows on the walls drifted slowly, dancing almost imperceptibly with the quiet breathing of the fire. The silence inside the cabin was never empty. It was filled with peaceful sounds, the soft crackle of wood, the quiet whisper of rain against the windows, the gentle sigh of wind beyond the walls. Every sound reminded the heart that everything was safe, everything was calm, everything was exactly as it should be. Outside, small puddles mirrored the sky above. Every raindrop created perfect little circles that slowly expanded before melting into one another. Ripple after ripple, wave after wave, each one fading gently into stillness. Nearby, a tiny fern bowed gracefully beneath the weight of fresh raindrops. When the breeze passed, the droplets slipped gently from its leaves, falling one by one onto the soft moss below. The sound was almost impossible to hear. Yet somehow, it added another peaceful note to the forest's endless lullaby. The little creek continued its quiet journey through smooth stones. Its water flowed slowly, never rushing, never slowing, simply following its peaceful path beneath the trees. The rain joined the creek joined the forest joined the night. Everything belonged together. Nothing felt separate. As the hours drifted onward, the peaceful rhythm became even softer. Breathing became slower. Thoughts became quieter. The mind no longer searched for answers. It simply rested. The cabin stood quietly beneath the rain, its warm light shining gently through the darkness, like a silent promise that peace could always be found in simple moments. Outside, the forest breathed with the wind. Inside, the fire breathed with warmth. And above them both, the gentle rain continued its endless song, softly carrying the night forward, one peaceful drop at a time. The night had settled into a deep and gentle stillness. It was the kind of quiet that asked for nothing, expected nothing, and simply allowed every living thing to rest. The rain continued to fall with the same soft rhythm, as if it had all the time in the world. The little cabin remained nestled among the tall pine trees, glowing warmly against the cool darkness. From a distance, it looked like a small lantern resting peacefully in the heart of the forest, surrounded by countless trees standing silently beneath the rain. The wooden roof welcomed each raindrop with quiet grace, soft, steady, gentle. The sound never grew louder. It never faded away. It simply continued, creating a comforting rhythm that seemed to slow every breath and quiet every thought. A cool breeze wandered through the forest once more, brushing gently against the branches high above. The pine needles whispered softly together, moving in perfect harmony before becoming still again. The air smelled wonderfully fresh, rain-soaked earth, clean pine, wet cedar, cool mountain mist. Every breath felt calm. Every breath felt peaceful. Tiny beads of rain rested on every leaf, sparkling whenever the moon briefly appeared between the drifting clouds. For a few quiet moments, the forest shimmered with silver light before returning once again to its soft blue darkness. Nothing in the forest feared the darkness. It was simply another part of the night's gentle embrace. Inside the cabin, the warmth remained constant. The fireplace glowed quietly, filling the room with soft amber light. The embers pulsed gently beneath the logs, like tiny stars resting inside the hearth. Every now and then, a small piece of wood settled with the faintest crackle. Then silence returned. The chair beside the fire looked more inviting than ever. The folded blanket rested patiently upon it, untouched, soft and warm. Nearby, the mug of herbal tea had cooled, yet it still carried the comforting scent of chamomile and wildflowers, blending gently with the aroma of cedarwood. Outside the window, raindrops continued their slow journey down the glass. Some traveled alone, others joined together, becoming larger before quietly disappearing over the edge of the frame. Watching them felt effortless. There was nowhere else to look, nowhere else to be. Far beyond the cabin, the quiet creek flowed gently beneath an old wooden bridge covered with soft moss. The water slipped around smooth stones without a sound of hurry, reflecting tiny pieces of moonlight whenever the clouds allowed. The forest seemed to breathe together. The trees inhaled with the breeze. The rain exhaled upon the earth. The creek whispered its endless story. The fire answered with quiet warmth. Every sound belonged. Every silence belonged too. Somewhere high in the branches, a gentle breeze carried a few loose pine needles to the forest floor. They drifted slowly through the cool night air before resting softly upon the damp moss below. Nothing rushed. Nothing interrupted the peace. Time itself seemed to slow, moving as gently as the clouds drifting across the sky. The moon appeared once again, brighter now, shining softly over the sleeping forest. Its silver light rested upon every rooftop, every leaf, every puddle, and every winding path. The cabin windows reflected that gentle glow, while their warm golden light continued to shine from within. Warm inside, cool outside, perfectly balanced. The peaceful rhythm of the rain continued without effort, wrapping the cabin and the forest in a blanket of comfort. As the quiet hours passed, the world felt lighter. Breathing became deeper. The heart grew calmer. The mind released the final thoughts of the day, allowing them to drift away like clouds carried gently across the night sky. Only the rain remained, only the warmth, only the endless peace of the forest, softly guiding every tired soul toward a night of deep, quiet, and restful sleep. Somewhere beyond the circle of tall pine trees, the night continued its quiet journey. No one could see time passing, yet the forest seemed to understand it perfectly. Every gentle breeze, every falling raindrop, and every glowing ember inside the cabin moved together in peaceful harmony. The rain had become softer now, not because it was ending, but because your ears had grown familiar with its gentle rhythm. It surrounded the cabin like a warm blanket of sound, never demanding attention, never becoming too quiet, always present, always comforting. The little wooden cabin stood peacefully beneath the towering trees, its windows glowing with a warm golden light that reflected softly on the wet porch outside. Tiny streams of rainwater slipped from the roof, drop after drop, one following another, each landing gently in the puddles below. The The ripples spread slowly across the still water, meeting one another before fading into perfect calm. The forest floor shimmered beneath countless tiny raindrops. Every blade of grass carried a crystal bead of water. Every fern held little drops that sparkled whenever the moon quietly peeked through the drifting clouds. The scent of the night felt fresh and pure. Cool pine, gentle rain, damp earth, soft cedar, a hint of wildflowers carried by the breeze. Every breath filled the air with calm. Far away, a narrow stream continued winding peacefully through the forest. Its quiet flow blended so naturally with the rain that it was impossible to tell where one sound ended and the other began. Together, they became one peaceful melody. The wind drifted gently through the highest branches. The pine trees answered with a soft whisper, not loud, not sharp, only a gentle rustling that seemed to say that everything was safe tonight. Inside the cabin, the fireplace glowed steadily. The flames had become small and quiet, leaving behind glowing embers that radiated a deep, comforting warmth. The room felt peaceful. The wooden walls carried years of quiet memories. The polished floor reflected the amber light. The chair beside the fire waited patiently beneath its folded blanket. Everything inside the cabin invited rest. The lantern near the window continued glowing softly. Its light mixed beautifully with the warm firelight, creating gentle shadows that slowly drifted across the walls. Nothing moved quickly. Nothing needed to. Outside the window, raindrops painted delicate patterns across the glass. Some wandered slowly downward. Others paused for a moment before continuing their peaceful journey. Each tiny movement encouraged the mind to become quieter, slower, lighter. Above the forest, the clouds slowly opened once more. The moon appeared like a quiet friend, bathing the treetops in soft silver light. Every wet branch shimmered. Every puddle reflected the stars that quietly appeared between the clouds. The whole forest glowed for just a few peaceful moments. Then the clouds gently returned, wrapping everything once again in comforting darkness. The darkness never felt empty. It felt warm, protective, peaceful. A gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh rain through the open spaces between the trees. Somewhere nearby, a single leaf slowly loosened from its branch. It drifted through the cool night air, turning gently before landing upon the soft moss below without making a sound. Nothing disturbed the stillness. Nothing hurried the night along. The rain continued. The wind continued. The creek continued. The fire continued. Everything moved with quiet purpose. Everything belonged exactly where it was. As the peaceful hours drifted by, the cabin seemed to breathe together with the forest. Warm light inside, cool rain outside, gentle silence everywhere. The rhythm of nature became slower and softer, inviting every heartbeat to relax, every breath to deepen, and every thought to fade gently into the comforting embrace of the endless rainy night. The forest watched peacefully. The cabin rested quietly. And the rain continued its timeless lullaby, carrying the night gently forward, one peaceful drop at a time. The quiet night continued without interruption, as though the forest itself had gently paused the world beyond its trees. There was no rush here, no destination waiting in the distance. Only the peaceful rhythm of nature remained, flowing softly from one moment to the next. The rain still fell with quiet grace. Not too heavy, not too light. Each drop landed gently upon the wooden roof of the cabin before joining countless others along the edge. Tiny streams formed naturally, slipping into the puddles below with soft, comforting splashes that blended into the night's endless melody. The air felt wonderfully cool. Fresh rain carried the scent of pine forests stretching far beyond the little cabin. Damp moss covered old stones beside the narrow forest path, while wild ferns gently unfolded beneath the shelter of ancient trees. Everything looked alive, Everything looked peaceful. A light mist drifted slowly through the forest, weaving between tall tree trunks like a soft white ribbon. It never hurried. It simply floated wherever the gentle breeze wished to carry it. From inside the cabin, the forest looked almost magical. Warm golden light spilled softly through the windows, reflecting across the rain-soaked porch. The wet wooden boards shimmered quietly, each tiny raindrop catching the glow before slipping silently into the darkness below. The fireplace continued to burn with gentle warmth. The bright flames had settled into calm embers, glowing like tiny pieces of the sunset, resting safely inside the stone hearth. Every so often, a small spark rose into the air. It floated for only a second before disappearing peacefully. The room remained perfectly quiet. No voices, no footsteps, only the comforting sounds of rain outside and the soft breathing of the fire within. The wooden walls carried a gentle warmth that seemed to embrace the entire cabin. The cozy chair beside the hearth remained wrapped in its knitted blanket, inviting nothing more than quiet rest. Near the window, the lantern shone with a steady amber glow. Its light never flickered sharply. Instead, it pulsed softly, blending beautifully with the warm colors of the fire. Outside, the forest floor had become a beautiful tapestry of greens and browns. Moss-covered fallen logs like soft velvet, while tiny drops of rain rested upon every leaf, every fern, and every blade of grass. The little creek flowed peacefully nearby. Its water curved gently around smooth stones, polished by many seasons of flowing rain. Occasionally, a raindrop landed upon its surface, creating delicate circles that widened slowly before disappearing into the quiet current. Above the trees, the clouds drifted lazily across the sky. For a brief moment, they opened just enough to reveal a blanket of stars. The stars shone quietly above the forest, their reflections dancing gently in the rain-filled puddles below. Then, another cloud passed by, covering the sky once more. Nothing changed. The peace remained. The night remained. The rain continued. A soft breeze wandered through the highest branches, carrying the faint scent of cedarwood and fresh mountain air. The pine trees answered with their familiar whisper. It was a sound that asked for nothing. A sound that simply reminded the heart that it was safe. Safe to rest. Safe to breathe slowly. Safe to let the day quietly drift away. Inside the cabin, the warm light continued to glow against the windows, standing like a quiet beacon in the heart of the sleeping forest. Outside, the rain carried on its timeless song, steady, gentle, patient. Every drop seemed to wash away another lingering thought, leaving only calm behind. The forest breathed slowly. The cabin rested peacefully. The wind whispered softly through the trees, and the endless rain continued to sing its quiet lullaby, guiding the night gently onward, one peaceful moment at a time. The gentle rain continued its endless lullaby, falling softly across the quiet forest, as though every drop carried a little more peace into the night. Nothing had changed, yet everything felt even calmer than before. The world seemed to slow with every passing moment, inviting the heart to rest and the mind to become wonderfully still. The little wooden cabin remained nestled among the towering pines, surrounded by the comforting embrace of nature. Its warm windows glowed like tiny stars, offering a gentle light that reflected across the rain-soaked porch. Water dripped steadily from the edge of the roof. One drop, then another, then another. Each tiny splash blended perfectly with the soft rhythm of the rain. The porch boards glistened beneath the moonlight whenever the clouds drifted apart. Small puddles rested quietly in the corners, their smooth surfaces rippling gently with every falling raindrop. The forest breathed slowly. The breeze wandered peacefully between the trees, carrying the fresh scent of pine, cedar, wet earth, and cool mountain air. It felt as though the entire forest had taken one long, slow breath together. The branches above swayed with quiet grace, not enough to disturb the silence, only enough to remind the night that the wind was still awake. Tiny drops of rain gathered at the tips of the pine needles before falling silently to the moss below. The moss welcomed every drop, soft and green, like a gentle carpet spread across the forest floor. Nearby, smooth stones glistened beneath the rain, their surfaces polished by countless seasons of flowing water and quiet weather. The little creek continued its peaceful journey through the trees. Its water moved slowly around each stone, never rushing, never hesitating. The quiet murmur blended naturally with the rain, creating another gentle layer in the night's endless melody. Inside the cabin, warmth filled every corner. The fireplace glowed softly, its embers shining with a deep orange light that pulsed gently like a calm heartbeat. The warmth spread across the wooden floor and climbed the walls, creating a peaceful shelter from the cool rain outside. A single candle rested upon the table. Its tiny flame moved ever so slightly whenever the warm air drifted through the room. It never flickered wildly. It simply glowed, steady, calm, comforting. The blanket remained folded across the chair, looking soft enough to wrap around anyone seeking rest. The room held no distractions, no noise, no rush, only warmth and silence. Outside the window, the rain traced slow, graceful paths across the glass. Some droplets joined together, becoming larger before quietly slipping downward. Others lingered for a moment, sparkling in the moonlight before continuing their gentle journey. Above the forest, the clouds moved like slow rivers across the sky. Now and then, the moon appeared, bathing the treetops in silver light. Every branch shimmered, every leaf glowed softly, every raindrop became a tiny jewel before the clouds gently embraced the moon once again. The darkness returned with kindness. It wrapped the forest in quiet comfort, making every sound feel softer and every breath feel deeper. Far away, the wind whispered through an open meadow before returning to the shelter of the trees. Its gentle voice carried no urgency, only peace, only calm. The cabin stood quietly beneath the endless rain, glowing warmly against the cool blue night. It asked for nothing. It offered only comfort. As another peaceful hour slipped gently into the next, the rain continued its soothing rhythm, the fire continued its gentle glow, and the forest remained perfectly still, holding the night like a beautiful dream that never needed to end. The rain carried on with quiet devotion, falling gently over the forest, as though it had been singing this peaceful melody for centuries. Every drop landed with perfect softness, never too loud, never too quiet, creating a rhythm that seemed to slow the entire world. The little cabin remained tucked safely beneath the tall pine trees. Its windows glowed with a warm golden light, shining through the gentle curtain of rain like a quiet beacon in the night. The wooden porch had become beautifully polished by the steady rainfall. Tiny streams of water wandered across the smooth boards before slipping quietly into the soft earth below. Nothing hurried. Nothing was ever in a rush. The forest had all the time it needed. The breeze drifted lazily between the towering pines, brushing gently against their branches. The needles whispered together with the softest rustle, a sound so delicate that it blended perfectly with the endless rain. The air felt wonderfully cool. Every breath carried the fresh scent of rain-soaked wood, pine resin, damp moss, and clean mountain air. The earth seemed grateful for every gentle drop that touched its surface. Near the cabin, a small stone path disappeared into the darkness. The rain washed each smooth stone until it reflected the pale light of the moon whenever the clouds slowly drifted apart. Between the stones, soft green moss shimmered with tiny droplets that sparkled like little stars resting upon the forest floor. Far beyond the trees, the quiet creek continued flowing with peaceful determination. Its gentle current slipped around rounded stones, creating a soft murmur that joined the rain without disturbing the silence. The water never hurried toward its destination. It simply enjoyed the journey. Inside the cabin, the warmth remained gentle and comforting. The fireplace had settled into glowing embers, filling the room with a steady amber light. The wooden walls reflected that warmth, making every corner feel safe and welcoming. The chair beside the fire remained wrapped in its soft blanket. The little table stood quietly nearby. The candle continued to glow with a peaceful flame, adding just enough light to make the room feel calm without ever becoming bright. Outside the window, raindrops continued their graceful dance across the glass. Some moved quickly for just a moment before slowing again. Others rested quietly, catching tiny reflections of moonlight before continuing their peaceful journey downward. Watching them felt effortless. The eyes naturally relaxed, the breathing slowed. Thoughts drifted away as gently as the clouds crossing the night sky. Above the forest, the moon appeared once again. Its silver light spilled softly across the tops of the pine trees, turning every raindrop into a tiny crystal. For a few quiet moments, the forest shimmered with peaceful beauty. Then the clouds returned, wrapping everything in a soft blanket of darkness once more. The darkness felt gentle. It carried no fear, only rest, only comfort. The wind slowed even further now. The branches barely moved. The rain became the quiet heartbeat of the night, steady, patient, endless. Somewhere beneath the trees, the earth quietly drank the fresh rain. The roots of the ancient pines reached deep below, holding the forest together with silent strength. Everything felt connected. The trees, the rain, the creek, the cabin, the fire, the quiet night itself. As another peaceful stretch of time slipped gently by, the warm cabin remained a place of perfect calm, surrounded by the endless rhythm of falling rain, softly inviting every tired mind to let go, breathe deeply, and drift peacefully into the comforting embrace of a long, restful sleep. The forest rested beneath the gentle rain, as though the entire world had decided to pause for the night. There were no sudden sounds, no hurried movements, and no reason to think about anything beyond this quiet moment. The peaceful rhythm of nature had become the only measure of time. The little wooden cabin remained nestled among the ancient pine trees, glowing softly with warm amber light. From above, it looked like a tiny star resting upon the forest floor, surrounded by endless shades of deep green and midnight blue. The rain continued to fall with perfect patience. Each drop landed softly upon the roof, then another and another, without beginning, without end. The steady rhythm wrapped itself around the cabin like a comforting lullaby. A gentle breeze wandered through the forest once again. It brushed against the tallest branches first, then slowly drifted downward through the lower pines before finally reaching the soft ferns that covered the forest floor. Every leaf responded with the quietest whisper. Nothing more. The fresh scent of rain filled the cool night air. Wet pine bark, fresh cedar, soft moss, clean mountain breeze. The fragrance was calming, simple, and timeless. Far beyond the cabin, the little creek continued its peaceful journey beneath an old wooden bridge. Rain touched the surface of the water, creating tiny circles that gently spread across the current before quietly disappearing downstream. The bridge remained silent, covered with soft green moss that had grown there over many peaceful seasons. Inside the cabin, the fireplace glowed with quiet warmth. The bright flames had faded into glowing embers, their orange light gently rising and falling like slow breathing. The room felt perfectly comfortable, neither too warm nor too cool, only peaceful. The candle upon the wooden table still burned with a small, steady flame. Its gentle glow blended beautifully with the firelight, filling the room with soft golden colors that danced slowly across the walls. The chair beside the hearth seemed almost inviting enough to settle into forever. The blanket remained folded neatly, waiting with quiet patience. Outside the window, raindrops continued sliding gracefully across the glass. Some formed delicate winding paths. Others paused briefly before joining another drop. Together they drifted slowly downward, disappearing into the peaceful darkness below. Watching them felt almost like watching clouds drift across a summer sky, slow, gentle, relaxing. Above the forest, the clouds parted just enough for the moon to shine once again. Its silver light rested gently upon the treetops. Every branch sparkled, every puddle reflected the sky. Even the smallest raindrops became tiny mirrors, catching the moonlight for a brief moment before falling quietly to the earth. Then the clouds returned, softly, without hurry. The moon disappeared behind them once again, leaving the forest wrapped in comforting darkness. The darkness felt kind. It carried no uncertainty, only peace, only rest. The breeze slowed until even the tallest trees became almost perfectly still. The rain remained the only constant sound, steady, gentle, endless. It seemed to whisper the same quiet message over and over again. Everything is calm, everything is safe, everything is exactly where it belongs. The cabin listened, the forest listened, the earth listened, and as another peaceful hour drifted silently through the night, the warm glow of the cabin, the endless rhythm of the rain, and the quiet embrace of the ancient forest gently carried every tired heart toward deeper comfort, deeper stillness, and the most peaceful sleep beneath the soft, endless song of the falling rain. The rain continued its quiet journey through the night, never asking to be noticed, yet always present. It fell with a calm and steady rhythm, touching every rooftop, every pine branch, every fern, and every smooth stone with the same gentle kindness. The little wooden cabin rested peacefully beneath the towering trees, surrounded by a world that seemed to have forgotten every worry. Its warm windows glowed softly through the curtain of rain, offering a quiet reminder that comfort could be found in the simplest places. A gentle mist drifted slowly through the forest. It moved so lightly that it almost seemed to float without direction, wrapping itself around the trunks of the ancient pines before quietly disappearing into the darkness. The air felt cool and wonderfully fresh. Every breath carried the clean fragrance of rain-soaked pine needles, damp cedar wood, rich forest earth, and soft green moss. It was the kind of air that invited slow breathing, deep breathing, peaceful breathing. Outside the cabin, the rain rested gently upon the wooden porch. Tiny streams of water slipped between the boards before quietly disappearing into the earth below. Small puddles reflected the warm cabin light, trembling softly whenever another raindrop touched their smooth surfaces. Circle after circle spread outward, then faded gently into stillness. Nothing in the forest hurried. Nothing ever needed to. The old stone path leading away from the cabin shimmered beneath the rain. Each stone carried the memory of countless peaceful nights like this one. The path disappeared into the quiet trees, inviting only calm thoughts and gentle dreams. Far away, the little creek continued flowing beneath the old bridge. The water moved with effortless grace, brushing softly against smooth stones, polished by many seasons. Its quiet murmur blended perfectly with the endless rainfall. The two sounds became one, impossible to separate, beautiful together. Inside the cabin, the fireplace glowed with quiet warmth. The embers pulsed slowly beneath the logs, filling the room with a deep amber light. Occasionally, a tiny spark floated upward before quietly disappearing into the warm air. The chair beside the hearth remained untouched. Its soft blanket looked warm enough to wrap around every tired thought. The candle on the table continued to burn with a small, steady flame, It never flickered wildly. It simply glowed with quiet confidence, adding another gentle layer of comfort to the peaceful room. Outside the window, the rain painted delicate patterns across the glass. Some droplets wandered slowly downward. Others paused for just a moment before continuing their peaceful journey. Watching them felt almost like watching time itself. Slow, gentle, endless. Above the forest, the moon appeared once more between the drifting clouds. Its silver light rested upon the tallest pine trees, making every raindrop sparkle like tiny crystals scattered across the branches. The wet leaves shimmered softly. The creek reflected the moonlight. Even the quiet mist glowed with a faint silver hue before the clouds gently covered the moon once again. Darkness returned. Not empty darkness, comforting darkness. The kind that wraps around the forest like a soft blanket. The wind had become even quieter now. Only the highest branches moved gently, whispering peaceful secrets to the rain. The forest listened. The cabin listened. The earth listened. Everything seemed perfectly content. The rain continued without effort. The fire continued without hurry. The creek continued without end. And somewhere within that endless harmony, every breath became slower, every heartbeat softer, and every lingering thought gently drifted away, carried into the peaceful night by the endless song of the falling rain. The night continued to unfold with quiet grace, as if the forest itself had settled into a peaceful dream. The rain never stopped. Instead, it carried on with the same gentle rhythm, wrapping every tree, every stone, and every quiet corner of the woodland in a soothing embrace. The little cabin stood patiently beneath the towering pines. Its warm windows glowed like gentle lanterns, casting a soft golden light onto the rain-covered porch. The light stretched across the wet wood, shimmering softly before fading into the peaceful darkness beyond. The roof welcomed another 1,000 tiny raindrops. Each one arrived gently, each one left quietly. Together, they created a melody that felt timeless. Above the cabin, the pine branches swayed almost imperceptibly in the cool night breeze. The movement was so slow that it seemed as though the forest was breathing. A long, calm breath in. A slow, peaceful breath out. The air was wonderfully fresh. Rain-soaked pine needles released their clean, comforting fragrance. The damp earth carried the rich scent of the forest floor. Soft moss covered ancient stones, holding tiny pearls of water that reflected the faint glow from the cabin windows. Everything looked calm. Everything felt calm. Far beyond the clearing, the gentle creek continued winding through the forest. Rain touched its surface with delicate little splashes, sending ripples quietly downstream. The water never hurried. It simply flowed, just as it always had. The old wooden bridge crossing the creek rested silently beneath the rain. Its weathered planks glistened softly, each one polished by countless seasons of wind, water, and moonlight. Inside the cabin, the warmth remained steady. The glowing embers in the fireplace gave off a gentle orange light, filling the room with quiet comfort. The fire no longer danced with tall flames. Instead, it glowed peacefully, radiating a warmth that felt calm and reassuring. The candle on the table still burned with its tiny golden flame. Its light reflected softly against the wooden walls, creating gentle shadows that moved almost too slowly to notice. The blanket draped over the chair looked inviting, soft, warm, comfortable. It waited quietly, asking for nothing. Outside the window, the raindrops continued their graceful journey across the glass. Some slid slowly in winding paths, others joined together before slipping gently toward the bottom of the window. The steady movement encouraged the eyes to relax, to blink more slowly, to simply watch without thinking. The clouds above drifted apart once again. The moon appeared, bathing the forest in a delicate silver glow, Every branch shimmered, every puddle reflected the sky, every raindrop sparkled for just a moment before quietly disappearing into the earth below. The silver light rested gently upon the roof of the cabin. Then, as softly as it had appeared, the moon disappeared behind another passing cloud. The darkness returned with gentle kindness. It covered the forest like a soft blanket, making every sound feel even more peaceful. The rain became the quiet heartbeat of the night. The breeze became its gentle breath. The creek became its peaceful voice. The glowing fire became its warm heart. Everything moved together. Nothing stood apart. As the quiet hours drifted onward, the little cabin remained a safe and peaceful shelter in the heart of the forest. The rain continued to sing its endless lullaby. The trees listened with quiet patience. The earth welcomed every gentle drop, and the peaceful night carried every slow breath, every calm heartbeat, and every quiet dream a little deeper into the comforting embrace of restful sleep. The rain had been falling for so long that it no longer felt like weather. It felt like part of the forest itself, a quiet companion that had always been there, softly surrounding the cabin with its endless, peaceful rhythm. The night remained calm. The trees remained still. The little cabin continued to glow warmly beneath the shelter of the ancient pines. Its windows shone gently through the rain, filling the darkness with a quiet amber light that reached only a few steps beyond the porch before melting into the soft blue shadows of the forest. The wooden steps leading to the cabin glistened beneath the steady rain. Tiny drops gathered along each edge before slipping quietly into the earth below. No drop hurried another. Each one followed its own gentle path. The forest welcomed every single one. A cool breeze wandered silently between the towering trees. It carried the comforting fragrance of fresh rain, cedar wood, damp pine needles, wild moss, and clean mountain air. The scent felt peaceful, familiar, as though the forest itself were offering a quiet invitation to slow down. Above, the highest branches swayed almost imperceptibly. The movement was graceful, patient, like the slow rhythm of deep breathing. The little creek continued flowing through the woods with effortless calm. Its water curved around smooth stones, polished by countless seasons, whispering softly as it disappeared beneath the old wooden bridge. Rain touched the surface again and again, creating delicate circles that slowly widened before fading into the gentle current. Nothing disturbed the silence. Everything added to it. Inside the cabin, the fire rested in a bed of glowing embers. Their warm orange light spread gently across the wooden floor, creating a comforting glow that reached every quiet corner of the room. The walls reflected years of peaceful evenings just like this one. The chair beside the fireplace remained wrapped in its soft blanket. The candle on the table continued to burn with a calm and steady flame. Its tiny light never rushed. It simply glowed. Outside the window, the rain traced graceful lines down the glass. Some droplets wandered together. Others traveled alone. Each one caught a tiny reflection of the warm cabin light before quietly disappearing into the darkness below. The window became a moving painting of rain and light. Simple, beautiful, endlessly calming. The clouds drifted slowly across the night sky. For a little while, they opened just enough to reveal a blanket of quiet stars. They shimmered gently above the forest, their light softened by the cool mist that floated lazily between the trees. The moon appeared beside them, casting a silver glow across the wet branches. Every leaf sparkled. Every puddle reflected the sky. Every tiny raindrop became a crystal for a single peaceful moment. Then the clouds returned once more, gently covering the stars without haste. The darkness that followed felt comforting, not empty, not lonely, only peaceful. The breeze slowed until the forest became almost completely still. Only the rain continued its gentle song, soft, steady, unchanging. It flowed across the roof. It whispered through the trees. It kissed the earth with quiet kindness. The cabin rested peacefully within that endless melody. Its warm light remained constant, offering comfort without asking for attention. As another quiet hour slipped gently into the next, the forest seemed to breathe in perfect harmony with the rain. Every breath became slower. Every thought became lighter. Every heartbeat settled into the peaceful rhythm of the night. And beneath the endless canopy of ancient pines, the little cabin continued to glow softly, surrounded by the comforting sound of falling rain, gently carrying every dreamer deeper into a night of complete peace and restful sleep. The night had become wonderfully quiet. The rain still fell with the same gentle rhythm that had begun so many peaceful hours ago. It had never rushed. It had never demanded attention. It had simply remained, a faithful companion, softly singing over the forest from dusk until the first quiet moments before dawn. The little wooden cabin stood exactly where it had always been, embraced by the ancient pine trees whose branches now rested almost completely still. The wind had grown softer. The creek flowed more gently. Even the rain seemed lighter, as though the night itself were preparing for a peaceful sunrise. Inside the cabin, the fireplace had settled into a bed of glowing embers. Their warm orange light quietly filled the room, casting gentle reflections across the wooden floor and walls. The candle on the table had nearly reached its end. Its tiny flame remained calm and steady, never flickering with urgency. It simply glowed, offering one last peaceful light to the quiet room. The blanket rested peacefully on the chair. The warm wooden walls held the comforting silence that only nature can create. Outside the window, the raindrops continued their slow journey across the glass. Each one caught a tiny reflection of the glowing embers before quietly slipping into the darkness below. Nothing interrupted the calm. Nothing needed to. Above the forest, the clouds slowly began to thin. For the first time in many hours, the sky opened just enough to reveal a few fading stars. They shimmered softly, their light reflected in the tiny puddles scattered across the forest floor. Then, very slowly, the eastern horizon began to change. Not suddenly, not brightly. Only a faint ribbon of soft blue appeared beyond the distant trees. Night was gently greeting the morning. The moon quietly drifted lower. The stars slowly disappeared one by one. The forest remained peaceful, as though it wished to enjoy every final moment of the rainy night. The rain became softer still. Gentle drops continued falling from the roof. Tiny beads of water rested on every pine needle. The scent of fresh earth rose quietly into the cool morning air. Everything felt renewed. Everything felt calm. The little creek welcomed the first hint of dawn, its clear water reflecting the pale blue sky as it flowed peacefully beneath the old wooden bridge. Birds had not yet begun to sing. The forest chose silence for just a little longer. It was a silence filled with comfort, a silence that carried no loneliness, only peace, only rest. The cabin remained warm. The embers continued glowing softly. The rain whispered its final verses across the roof. And somewhere deep within the quiet forest, every tree, every stone, every drop of rain, and every gentle breeze seemed to share one simple message. You are safe. You are calm. You can rest now. The night had carried every worry away with the rain. The forest had gently held every restless thought until it faded into stillness. Now, only quiet remained, only slow breathing, only peaceful dreams. As the first gentle light of morning slowly touched the distant treetops, the rain finally became little more than a soft whisper upon the leaves. The cabin rested peacefully beneath the ancient pines, surrounded by fresh air, quiet streams, and the endless beauty of nature. The forest had watched over the entire night. Now it quietly welcomed a brand new day. And with one final gentle breath of cool mountain air, the peaceful rainy night slowly faded into a calm and beautiful dawn.